I played the strongest unrated 9-year-old in the city of Edmonton at the 2025 Spring Sectional, and it was terrifying. I've never played a kid this young and this strong in any tournament, and I think you will have an appreciation for such a talent in this game. So let's get into the game. Now, Maxim, who was my opponent, had the white pieces and I've heard is usually an e4 player, but instead decided to play e3 in his first ever tournament. Now, e3 is an unconventional move. It's actually the Event Kuj opening. I don't think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but basically it is a more passive opening, and basically it has nothing to do with what he was preparing for, which was his French defense. So as a 9-year-old, I think he was a little bit scared and a little bit nervous of what he was going to play. I played d5, he played knight to c3, I played e5, controlling the center and now getting a really nice position already off the bat. He plays d4, and now I head this into a French exchange. Now, I'm not a French player, but this was what I felt more comfortable with, and I wanted to play a more structured, light squared position. So he took back, I played knight to f6, and we developed our pieces like so. He brought his bishop to e2, I kicked out his bishop, and made this really solid system with the black pieces. So I didn't know this was the French exchange, but I just played what I normally like to play. He brings his knight here, we exchange the knights off the board, he brings his bishop to attack my bishop, I castle, he castles, and then I play rook f to e8. So now we have the middle game. So in this position, my opponent played the first weird move. He played queen to f3. And queen to f3 is a developing move, but it now becomes a problem because now bishop to g4 is the move. And so the queen, if the queen goes here, this is a potential fork on the pieces. And so this becomes really bad for the white pieces. So the white pieces has to go back and it gets really greasy. There's like moves like bishop to c5, attacking the queen if it moves here, and all that sort of jazz. But in the game, I actually take his bishop because I didn't see that move right off the bat. I'm 1530, I should see these moves, but unfortunately I was getting pressed on the clock and I had like 40 minutes already like left on my clock, and I already used 20 minutes off the first 13 moves. My opponent had over an hour on the clock, and just bizarre. So my opponent takes with the queen, I play a5, he plays rook here, and then I played bishop to b4. He kicks out my bishop, and I bring my bishop back. We exchange the bishops, and then he brings his rook here. He is like at an hour and 5 minutes, which is just ridiculous because I had used more clock time than he had in his entire life. And so basically, I was just completely dumbfounded at how he was basically converting this into an endgame position, which is most favorable for him. So he takes back, and then I play rook a to e8, and now I'm trying to attack his queen, but he just moves it right back out of the way. And so here, I was very distraught, and I wasn't really knowing what to do next as the position remains really symmetrical. We have the same amount of pawns on the queen side, same amount of pawns on the king side, and we both have a knight and a rook and two queens. And so now the position starts to get iffy. I jump my knight into the position, we take, and then he brings his rook here. Now, I realize I should have gone for draw here and just exchange the rooks off the board and maybe go king and pawn. Maybe I would win in a king and pawn endgame, as that's what I feel comfortable. But I bring back my queen, he brings his rook to his king to f1, and this is just insane. He's playing like Magnus Carlsen and basically trying to force a draw, or best outcome for white, a win. But then I play the first wrong move. I played f5, which I thought was fine because then after rook takes, I take back with the pawn. But I completely forgot that there is one thing hanging. So after the exchange of pieces, I lose my pawn And in this position, I start to panic, and I am feeling like I'm completely lost. I really want, now that I'm down a pawn, want to move my queen to an active square and start harassing the white position. And this is where things start to get really weird. So I didn't want the queen to infiltrate when I moved my queen here, so him getting check would result in him gathering up my pawn. So I did not want that to happen. So what did we do? Well, we played king h7 first, which is one of the moves that I played. But now this is good for white after white just plays a4, which is a critical move now because now he can start bringing his other pawns into the game. I start to panic even more. I play queen to g5 and now try and give myself some desperate ideas and counterplay. But my opponent should have gone in this position, queen to e1, and now everything is protected. There is not a weakness in white's position, and black is now struggling down a pawn. So in this position, even though I played queen g3, my opponent didn't see it and he played queen to c3. But now I'm back into the game. Pause the movie if you want to go find the best move in this position. And after a while of looking at this game and trying to figure out the best move, I found it. And the move is queen to h5, attacking this square and attacking this weak pawn. Now, if my opponent simply just goes here, I can check. He brings back his queen as the only move because the king can't move to this square. And now I regain that pawn back, which was critical. And now he struggles with 3 pawn islands. So instead, what he needs to do in this position is basically try and go down back to an even amount of pawns and play what I thought he was going to play, g3. g3, now I can take his weak h2 pawn, and now the position's back to even. I'm going to start giving him checks now and start to go for a draw, if I can, because black can't really go for a win because, yes, this is going to be a light squared weakness. And now that my queen is not on a light square guarding these pawns, a possible queen to b4 infiltration is possible. So I had to be careful. He plays b4, which, as I was looking at this game, was starting to get nervous. I had like 25 minutes on my clock. I give a check, I give another check, and then they play g5 because I really can't give him another check because his king can run to d2. And I didn't want that because I want checks in my favors for counterplay. So he goes pawn to b5, and this is where things get really scary for me. As the black pieces, I should just take and then play something like queen to f7, but that never happened, and I played queen to e8 in full panic mode, thinking that I had to take back, otherwise I would have been lost. But this is bad after pawn to a5, and now the pawns are rushing down. He's going to have a pass pawn, and if the queen ever checks the king with the queen in the same 7th rank, this pawn is going to promote, and this is really bad for black. But my opponent doesn't do that, and instead, after queen to e8, which happened, my opponent plays queen a5. Now this is still a draw, but it's hard to really figure out what white needs to do in this position. But this was still really terrifying. Bringing the pawns in and on the attack was just brutal. I'm down to like 22, 23 minutes on the clock. I go now queen to d7, and black still has the advantage after something like b6, and now just going and bringing the queen in. He can bring the queen in here and then start pushing the pawn, and it's GG's for black. But that doesn't happen, and he plays still a very scary move, queen to b6, and now I can't do anything. I have to take this pawn. It's forced, because if I allow him to take, he can easily start pushing the pawn, and if my king doesn't get out of the way, it's going to be GG's, and he's going to promote to make a queen. I take, and then I play h5, the only move in the position because there's no move that black can make, and now it's just a matter of pushing these pawns and trying to find counterplay ideas, maybe stop these pawns from going anywhere, And if something like this, and this were to happen, maybe black can start pushing a pawn of their own. And so queen to c5 and h4, the only moves in this position. He plays c4 now. Now, this is a mistake because you can simply just go pawn to h3 and potentially, and I mean potentially, make a queen yourself. But there are a lot of different ideas. I think if the king goes here and something like this, you can sacrifice your own queen. You can't take because you make a queen your own. And yeah, this is still very scary stuff. And you would have to try and figure out the counterplay for this, which I think is technically worst for black because black or white's king finally gets into the game and can help the queen capture these weak black pawns. But like I said, my opponent played c4 and I took here. So now it's still drawable because I want to simplify as much as possible. Like I said multiple times, black is going for a draw here. So I play queen to g4, only move because if you take, I can make some checks and possibly gain pawns back, and it could be very drawish. And like I said, all the pawns will be gobbled up by the white and the black kings. So queen to e7, king to h6, queen to f8 check, and then king back to h7. So now you really can just start perpetual checks and I would be fine with a draw, but white wants to go for a win. And so they play c5 here, and that's one of the best moves. And now they're planning to go here, takes, and promote a pawn of their own. Like I said, black is holding on to dear life. I have 20 minutes on the clock. I'm completely out of it, and the only move I have for counterplay is queen takes pawn. Queen goes back, and now I have perpetual checks by sliding my queen back and forth on the dark squares. Queen to c3, and then queen to here, and then queen back to g3, and then queen to f2, or was supposed to be queen to f2. But in this position, my opponent played a blundering move and played king to d1, and this was a really perplexing move because now black can infiltrate on these pawns, and because the queen can't really protect, this becomes really bad. So I go here, he goes back, I take his pawn, and now you have to hold on to your own pawns. Otherwise, it's really bad. But my opponent makes an even worse mistake. He goes queen takes g5, and now I have his pawns. And so I take back all of his white pawns, and black is now winning. The only thing black needs to do now is run their king up the board and go for the win. So my opponent walks away from check. I play e3, planning to possibly do checkmate like this and go for the win. But my opponent has one thing in their favor. But not in their favor at all. And that is to check the king for infinity and beyond. But my king has one thing. Get to the safe square. The safe square is not queen c4, is the c4 square. And this is a very important square because if the queen gives any checks, the queen can go to d4 and then simplify it to an endgame where you're up 3 pawns. So king g7, queen check, the king runs all the way across the board, and then after here, queen to h4 is the blunder considered because now you have forced the queens off the board, and now the pawns go. And in this game, I won very convincingly and checkmating my opponent in 67 moves. But this game was honestly crazy. I told my opponent after the game that he played exceptionally well and that this was not a loss, but should be a win in his case for how well he played. And mad respect to my opponent, and honestly, I am very happy that I got this experience because now I should never underestimate kids in chess. If you like this video, check out the next one. We'll be coming out soon, and we'll catch you for round 2. Thanks for watching.